To truly scale your client acquisition system to build a predictable, repeatable engine that delivers 1,000+ GoHighLevel customers, you've got to break free from reactive marketing. You need to transcend tactics and enter the realm of intelligent systems design. That journey begins with a forensic understanding of your acquisition engine. Think of funnel forensics as the art and science of meticulously dissecting your client acquisition system, much like a detective analyzes a crime scene. It involves identifying your vital signs, tracing the flow of leads, diagnosing the bottlenecks, and determining the root causes. It's about moving from guesswork to data-driven diagnosis and strategic innovations. Think of this as your red and blue pill moment. The blue pill. You choose the blue pill and return to the familiar comfort of marketing matrix, right? You'll continue to believe that surface level strategies and quick fixes funnels are the ultimate reality. But if you take the red pill, if you dare to take the red pill, you step into Wonderland. You'll gain a profound, often unsettling, yet ultimately empowering understanding of the real mechanics of acquisition, the hidden architecture of systems, and the true nature of scaling. This training is your Morpheus, guiding you to a radically different perspective, a perspective that unlocks abundance, shatters limiting beliefs about metrics, KPIs, and reveals the immense potential within your grasp. If you pick the red pill, you'll never be able to go back to the way you see things normally. I have a completely different view now of systems, of acquisition, of metrics, of KPIs, how much money there is in the world, and the pure abundance mindset. So come and join me in today's training. The objective of this training is to equip you with the systems thinking, diagnostic tools, and the mental models needed to build 1,000+ GoHighLevel acquisition funnels. Welcome to Funnel Forensics. Let's begin. So before we dive in, again, quick recap. We're going to talk about systems. What is a systems, guys? Tell me what a systems is. It is humans in a niche combined with stimuli chains, which are SOPs and automations done by humans, which gives you clients, which gives you metrics as feedback. All of this operates within an ever-changing context, the market. Again, we have the macro client acquisition systems, right? So your markets, your macro client acquisition systems is not one giant machine. It's a series of smaller connected systems working together in sequence. Each of these subsystems is responsible for moving a lead through a specific transition, from unaware to aware, from curious to committed, and from interested to enrolled, just like this. So we have, of course, latent conditions, which goes through a series of processes, which gives us attention, likewise attention to interest, interest to appointments, appointments to shows, shows to prime prospects to closed deals. Then we can diagnose the actual. Now we can go into a little bit more depth on how we can diagnose how well this system's performing. So a high functioning process does three things. It reduces friction, guides the next decision, and runs without emotional labor. Every touch point is clear and easy to follow along. There's no ambiguity. Each step exists to prompt just one next move, read, click, reply, book, and it does this whether you're in the mood or not. To evaluate how well your acquisition engine is functioning, we begin by introducing 4 core proprietaries of systems performances: throughput, bottleneck, yield, and latency. Throughput, which is the volume of valuable entities such as leads or users or flows flowing through a process in a defined period of time. So high throughput indicates an efficient and well-functioning machine. For example, the throughput of your lead generation subsystems might be measured by the quality and the number of qualified leads generated per week. Yield, which is the total quantity of successful outcomes your system generates in the same time frame. Bottlenecks, which is the specific stages where flow slows down or gets stuck, constraining throughput and limiting results. And lastly, latency, which is the time delay between an input entering the system, producing a meaningful output. Voila. Applying systems thinking to olive oil production. Now, I know this is a little bit weird. Like, why am I talking about olive oil when we're talking about systems thinkings and funnel forensics? Well, systems thinkings often feels abstract until it's grounded into something tangible. So let's anchor these foundation principles into, throughput, yield, bottlenecks, and latency in something familiar that we both use, which is turning raw olives into bottled olive oil. This isn't just a metaphor. It's understanding these principles through a production system like olive oil can help leaders, operators, and system designers optimize their own workflows, whether in manufacturing tech or client acquisition. So imagine you own an olive oil production facility. Your process follows this: harvesting, pressing, filtering, bottling. Now, each of these steps consumes time, resources, and energy, and they vary in efficiency. Let's analyze these 4 stages so you can relate to and sort of understand what we were discussing earlier. So throughput, how fast a stage operates. Throughput refers to the amount of work a single stage can process over a given period of time. It's about speed and capacity. How many units of olives can be processed within a time frame, right? So let's say your pressing machine can extract 500 liters of olive oil per hour. That is throughput, right? If another machine can only process 200 liters per hour, it has a lower throughput. That's the measurement, and that's the key insight, right? A stage with high throughput is fast and capable, but only valuable if downstream stages can be kept up. Yield, which is the total system's output. Yield is the total volume of usable output the entire system generates over time. It reflects how efficiently raw input is converted into valuable output. For instance, right, after pressing, filtering, bottling, let's say they end up with 2,000 liters of bottled olive oil per day. That's your daily yield, right? It factors in losses from poor olives, filtration, waste, and delays. Measurements include, total liters bottled per day. Key insights include high yield, which means your entire system is well performing. Low yield, there's likely hidden waste or bottlenecks along the way. Number 3, speaking of bottlenecks, right? So this is the constraint that governs the flow. A bottleneck is any stage in the system that restricts the flow of materials or work, slowing down everything else. It doesn't matter how fast the upstream processes are. If your bottlenecks is slow, the whole system slows down, right? So with olive oil, let's say the filtering machine can only process 100 liters per hour, but the pressing machine outputs 500 liters per hour. You now have oil piling up, waiting to be filtered, and the filter is your bottleneck. Number 4, latency. So this is the time from start to finish. It's the total journey it takes for an input to become a final output. From start to finish, it's the journey time of a unit through the entire system. You harvest olives on Monday. They're cleaned and pressed on Tuesday. They're filtered on Wednesday and they're bottled by Thursday. The latency is 4 days. So the measurement is the total time from olive harvest to bottled product. High latency delays revenue and response times, but not all latency is bad. Some of it adds value, so maturing times, like wine, cheese, etc. But the goal is to minimize non-value adding latency like idle time, storage delays, or bottleneck queues. So with that, in addition to those 4 concepts, I want to discuss something called growth, right? So those are the 4 systems that you need to bear in mind when applying or when diagnosing a system for health. Now, in addition to diagnosing a system for health, how can we turn this healthy system into a growing system? And there are mainly 3 systems that you need to keep in mind that exist in your business to be successful and work at scale for this to happen. So at a macro level, there is really 3 systems, right? So there's the acquisition, there's the conversion, and there's the value delivery. That's it. System, like your business is simple. The complexity comes from scale, because scale doesn't come from doing more. Scale comes from building clean systems that flow value from one stage to the next, repeatably, reliably, and without your constant intervention. Imagine your business as a network of interconnected pipes. Value flows through these pipes like water, and if every pipe is strong, clear, and aligned, the flow is fast and effortless, right? But if a single pipe clogs, leaks, or shrinks, the entire system chokes. The above diagram represents throughput and flow of a value at a global level. Global means macro, as in business at a 30,000 foot view. Just as you can visualize the throughput of a business at a macro bird's eye level, we can also see throughput at a local level, right? So remember what we discussed, we have the macro acquisition channels, big subsystems, and then in those subsystems, there's the micro acquisition channels. So acquisition, conversion, value delivery, and yield. The red bar in the third pipe represents a bottleneck, but for the sake of this example, don't assume that the third pipe is always there where bottlenecks lie. So this is the acquisition pipeline, right? Getting attention, converting that attention into interest, converting attention into appointments, and then getting appointments to show up. That's it. So getting attention, like opening emails, impressions, ads, etc., content, DMs, turning that attention into interest, which is clicking reply, watching VSL, booking a call, which is booking a call. Yield is the appointments that show up. That is the systems within this acquisition system, the local level throughput. With local level conversions, you have the qualifying and discovery, right? You have the pitching and answering, which is pitch, pricing, etc. Handling objection, want to think about it, type of questions, and then the yield, which is the close. Then we have the value delivery, which is client onboarding, providing them information. Do they have access to what they need? Are you supporting them with community, Q&As, onboarding sessions, right? Yield, the results for the clients. Are they getting the results that you promised them? And then also, for some of you as well, there's this is sort of the value delivery. There could also be a even local level to that, because in onboarding, there's a series of steps that you'd have to do, right? So payments, signing terms, requesting access, giving them access to a GoHighLevel account, watching content. So our AI onboarding videos, for instance, that we have available for you guys as well, if you don't already have it. There's local levels within those local levels as well. Hopefully that's not confusing. And you can even go even deeper to signing the terms, right? They have to find and send the template, all the automations that happen that do that. The client needs to approve the terms and signs. There needs to be a storing of the signed terms, and then that means the terms are actually completed. And then I'm hoping you can get the point by now. It can go even deeper again into the local events, which is client approves terms. So when they actually receive the terms, they could even come up with objections or questions. The rep could answer those objections and questions, and then the client can finally approve. This method of thinking, getting to the core local level of any system in your business, is imperative because every business is simply the flow of value through a ton of different pipes. Your company is compartmentalized into pipes, like every processes in your business relevant to the big three is a pipe. If all pipes are open and ready to receive value, throughput will flow freely and you'll make a ton of money. Who likes making money, guys? I sure do. So speaking of throughput, because if you don't, it's right here. To manage a system, you must speak its language, and the language it speaks is metrics and KPIs. Metrics are the raw signals your system produces, like clicks, click-through rates, conversion rates, response rates, cost per lead, and more. They show you what is happening at each layer. KPIs, which are the small sets of metrics you've selected to define success, which are smart metrics, right? So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. Each subsystem in your acquisition engine should have its own KPIs when paired with regular tracking and feedback loops. These KPIs act like a dashboard instrument, showing you not only where you are, but where things are likely to break if not adjusted. The universal formula you'll use most often is output divided by input multiplied by 100, which gives you conversion rate. This single metric, conversion rate, becomes your best friend because you can apply it everywhere. Clicks, impressions, leads, bookings, show-ups, and close deals from every call. Every transition has a conversion rate, and once you understand it, you can improve it. So this is the macro metrics and KPIs examples, right? So for instance, if we were to zoom out and look at a simplified GoHighLevel client acquisition funnel, you'd have impressions, you have people who clicked on your landing page and went through, lead forms, right? So how many submissions did you get? And the percentage, how many booked an appointment, how many showed up for a sales call, how many of those deals were closed, and the metrics, conversion rates associated to each subsystem, like such. Now let's go to a little bit more depth on each of these subsystems, example micrometrics and KPIs. So if we were to get awareness, which is converting latent condition into attention, this is what we call the top of funnel, where the goal is visibility. The market isn't looking for your solution yet, but they're experiencing friction, and your role here is to create relevance and presence. So impressions, which include the total views of your assets, right? So they're tracked via ad platforms, email systems, and native analytics. Reach, which is your unique viewers who saw your assets. Open rate, which is the percentage of open rates from total delivered. Again, things can go into spam. It can be from cold or from warm. This is the other way around. You should ideally have a higher open rate on your warm list than you do in your cold list. But I can see this. This has gone even lower before. It's like 10 to 20% if you're good at cold emails and you make good headlines. CPMs, which is cost per 1,000 impressions, is the efficiency of paid visibility. Ideally, you want it as low as you can, but I've seen it go to $50 to $100 depending on the audience that you advertise to. Ad frequency, which is how often each user sees the same assets. So over time, your ad frequency, if it keeps increasing, people get bored of it and the same stimuli doesn't hit. Top, that's why people refresh ad creatives over and over again. Top referring channels, which is where traffic is coming from, and it's used to double down on the highest ROI channels. So if it's underperforming, improve the headline subject line, retarget higher LTV audiences, audit, copy, offer, and congruence. Number 2, engagement. So how do we turn attention to interest? These stages measure resonance. So are they not just seeing you, but pausing to interact? Does it click? Does it align? This signals curiosity and begins the path towards consideration. So we have linked click-through rate, which is the percentage of impressions that results in a click. We have engagement rate, which is, do they interact? Do they like, share, save, comments? Especially this is relevant for organic side of things. Paid, less so. Time on page, so are they on the page for a long period of time, reading through your copy and watching your VSL? If not, then obviously there's a issue with people's retention. Lead magnet and opt-in rates, so the percentage of page visitors who provide contact information, and then if it's underperforming, refine all these things, testimonials, urgency prompts, simplify layouts, or segment better. Conversions. So how do we turn those interests into appointments? So where curiosity turns into commitment, this stage is fragile. Even interested leads can drop off if friction is too high, urgency is unclear. Lead to call booking rate. So if the percentage of leads that convert into a booked call is less than this, then there's an issue. It depends. Another really key metric here is speed to lead. So how fast are you calling your leads as soon as they opt in? Is it within the minute? because it should be. Form to completion rate, right? So what is the percentage of users who begin and finish the booking form? Ideally 70%, but could be lower. Time to booking. What is the average time between form filled and scheduled call? And what is the drop-off rate? So what are the number of leads who abandon mid-booking? If underperforming, you might need an appointment setter, you might need a triager. So an appointment setter is someone that calls the lead, follows up with them, book them into an appointment. A triager is someone who, once the appointment is set, they pre-qualify and see if they're a good fit. If they are a good fit, then they obviously go into the closer's calendar. Show up. So this measures reliability. If your show up rate is low, it's often an indicator of cold leads, poor onboarding, or lack of perceived value. Show up rate, which is a percentage of booked calls that happens. Reminder, which is the open rate. Pre-call content views, which is how many viewed your material. If it's underperforming, you shorten the booking window, integrate 3 reminders across SMS, case studies, wins, etc. Qualifications. So show up, prime prospects. At this phase, you're assessing fit. Does this person have the pain, urgency, and resonance resources to buy? You're also building alignment. Pitch, progression rate, right? So how many of them do you actually pitch? What is the talking ratio? Are you talking more or are they talking more? They should be talking more than you because you should be listening as a salesperson. Discovery. How long are you taking time to discover who they are? What are the verbal qualifiers, right? That you have strong buying signals, right? So them saying like this is the exact problem, that they found the exact solution. And then lastly, an internal scoring system of budget, authority, need, and timing. So finding the ideal percentage, 75% score on qualified leads. If underperforming, you want to improve the discovery frameworks, increase tension, building questions, listen more than you speak, and so forth. Then lastly, closing. So this is the final lever. Trust is high. Now your clarity offer and closing mechanics must seal the deal. Close rate, which is a percentage of prospects pivoted who convert. Sales cycle, so how long does it take? This could take even longer depending on how high ticket it is. Follow-ups, so number of follow-ups, ideally 1, maximum 3. Objection frequency, so how many objections you come up with, and then revenue per client. And then last but not least, these are the macro level snapshots and the key metrics that you want to keep in mind of. So funnel conversion rate, time to close, cost per acquisition, and then cost per acquisition payback cycle. So how much time does it take for you to break even on the front end? So if you're spending $10,000 per month, how long does it take for you to make back $10,000? Is it the first 10, 20, 30, 50 days? And then the lifetime value to CAC ratio. The ideal return on investment is 3-to-1. So these metrics aren't just numbers, they are diagnostics. Each one reveals the health of a system and improves the system and the metrics that follow. Every number is a feedback loop. Track it, decode it, and improve it. That's how you scale with precision. Here's an example of the macro and micro acquisition diagram worksheet that you can use. It's a diagnosis worksheet. So this is the macro level. Write this all down on where you're at and then do the macro system diagnosis from awareness to engagement to conversion to show up to qualification and to closing. Then finally do your final funnel KPIs and then mention any action steps that you believe are your top bottlenecks, things that are quick wins, and then next steps. Sound good? Hope it sounds good. So that is that. Come back, give me your attention. Give me your attention. Wake up. So we have 7 key mental models for funnel forensics. First one being the North Star metric, which is ideally focusing on one metric for success for each subsystem. And if you focus on that number and make sure it's healthy, your system should be working regardless of the surrounding metrics. Non-linear systems, so figuring out acquisition systems that work non-linearly, right? So it could be one that performs way better than the other, and you want to try and find non-linear association. So if I'm like, hey, I should put more time and attention into this subsystem because I get a non-linear return on investment with it being like that. Statistical regression, so not every result is a trend. Some are just variations. Validity before velocity, so you don't want to rush scale and decisions based on noisy data. You want to validate your sample size, tracking integrity and attribution before you jump and interpret anything. Input scaling via structural scaling, which is not necessarily that, hey, if I do more, I get better results. Input scaling builds momentum. Structural scaling builds endurance. Bottlenecking mapping, so how can you find the bottlenecks within your systems? And then feedback loops, so every system talks to itself. Good loops amplify momentum, bad ones spiral into decline. Design your system to listen early and respond to it intelligently. So that's a summary. Let's go more in depth. The North Star metric. In the architecture of any client acquisition system, clarity is currency. When things go wrong, when leads dry up, when bookings fall, and when close rates nosedive, what do you look at first? Where do you focus your energy? That answer is, it points to your North Star metric. What is the North Star metric? Well, the North Star metric is the single most important metric that defines the success of subsystems. It reflects the core output that the system was designed to produce. Every system, every acquisition subsystem, whether it's cold outreach, paid ads, or a YouTube funnel, or a referral engine, is built to create a specific result. The NSM is a precise numerical representation of that result, North Star metric. Unlike these surface level metrics like open, views, likes, the North Star metric is outcome driven. It doesn't just measure activity, it measures the impact, right? So let's say you have a YouTube channel that gets millions of views, but you only make 10K per month. Whilst you could have a YouTube channel with a couple 100,000, 1,000 subscribers, and it does $1 million a month. What is the metric that you're measuring here? The money you're making or the views that you're getting? Probably the money that you're making, right? And that's where people mess up most, because they look at vanity metrics that inflate their ego, like, oh, look at the revenue I'm making. It's like, okay, cool. How much are you bringing home? What's your profit? Not enough? Cool. So most teams track dozens of metrics, but tracking isn't the same as optimizing. Without a clear defined North Star, teams end up solving the problems that are wrong, that are incorrect. They chase lagging indicators, polish vanity metrics, or over-optimize for performance noise instead of structural truth. The North Star metric cuts through all of that. It answers, is this system doing its job? If yes, leave it alone. If no, diagnose and intervene. The North Star metric is your system's litmus test. Is it blue or red? How do I identify a North Star metric? Well, to define your North Star metric, what is the primary outcome this subsystem exists to produce? Then ask what metric best quantifies that outcome, simply, directly, and unambiguously. So for subsystems like cold email, what is it North Star metric? What is it meant to do? Book 100 appointments, right? Paid ads on landing page. How many qualified leads submitted per $100 spent? YouTube funnel, DM to call conversion, Instagram content, DMs leading to booked calls, referral systems, new qualified clients referred per month, and then webinar funnels, attendee to client conversion rate. It's always a result, not an immediate action. Asymmetry. This is a little bit of a longer one, so ready for this. How to find 1% levers that move 100% of your growth. In business, it's dangerously easy to mistake movement for momentum. We chase open rates, click-throughs, website visitors, metrics that pulse and flash and makes us feel busy. But surface metrics are an illusion. They are thermometers, not thermostats. They measure the temperature, they don't set it. Optimizing vanity metrics is like rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking ship. You feel active, but the ship is still going down. Why small changes often change everything. Business systems don't respond to in tidy linear ways. You can pour 10% more effort in and see nothing change, or shift one critical detail and triple your results overnight. One neglected bottleneck can cap your entire growth ceiling. One subtle upgrade can send shockwaves through your pipeline. Scaling isn't about doing more, it's about doing less smarter. Finding the few points where tiny actions bends the whole system. This is the essence of asymmetry. So let's understand what it is. Not all actions are created equally, and some produce colossal results, more from modest of effort, right? And others absorb weeks of time for barely a ripple. This is asymmetry, right? You have little input and big outputs. So input, which is the time and money and costs, and brain, mental energy, which reloads in the reward. Whilst you also have anti-asymmetry, which is big input and little output. Every day, examples of asymmetry, right? I'm just going to give you some examples, right? So if you were to tweak a tweet to how you phrase a meeting invite, can double attendees, right? A 2-minute story on a sales call can close you a 10,000 deal. Repositioning your service as a solution rather than a product can slash your sales cycle in half. Launching a $99 upsell can add 6 figures to your revenue without needing a new customer. And then finally, changing your onboarding email from 4 paragraphs to 3 bullet points can halve your client confusion and churn. These aren't massive rebrands. They're minor shifts that unlock disproportionate outcomes. Asymmetries I've seen personally in my life is pushing, for instance, one niche article which led to 5-figure licensing deals. Forming one relationship led to a 5-figure per month deal. Think about that. Reframing our cold outreach script into just 2 sentences tripled our positive reply rates. Training a setter. I have a setter that I've trained for nearly 2 years. She's booked me hundreds of appointments. She's unlocked $100,000 in additional pipeline value in a single month just by training them. Rewiring a 7-word call to action lifted landing page conversions by 45% overnight. These were small inputs, but the payoffs were monumental. And the trap of anti-asymmetry. The danger isn't working hard, it's working on the wrong things. If you're spending days tweaking font choices on your website, launching 5 new offers without fixing the broken one you already have, or building a new funnel while the current one leaks at every stage. Most businesses are strangled by anti-asymmetry long before they're starved by lack of effort. Asymmetry is not about perfection, it's about precision. So where and how do you find these asymmetries? Well, finding asymmetries start with brutal honesty. Here's the method. Audit your KPIs against your scale conditions. So conversion rates, show-up rates, and collection rates. Whatever a metric is out of target, that's your asymmetry. And if you want to fix one at a time, start with the one causing the biggest bottleneck. You don't need 100 new strategies. You need 1 to 2 correctly placed interventions. Scaling is a matter of releasing constrictions, not forcing expansion. Here's a resource that you can use. This is called the Asymmetry Audit. Audit your life. Audit your business. Well, your business is basically your life if you're doing it right. So over here is a link. There you go. So the Asymmetry Audit. So your business, it's a structured method to identify, prioritize, and fix the small leverage points in your business that create disproportionate growth. Introduce the concept of asymmetries, explaining minimum requirements categories into 3 terrains, which provides a KPI audit table, shows how to prioritize fixes, and gives real-life examples of tracking tools. So your business already contains hidden points of extraordinary leverage, tiny hinges which, if located and moved correctly, unlock enormous shifts in revenue, profitability, and scalability. These points are called asymmetries, small inputs that create a disproportionate output. And in business, you are not rewarded for effort. You are rewarded for finding and pulling the right levers. This audit will help you systematically uncover these hidden asymmetries, prioritize them with surgical precision, and focus your effort where they yield the greatest return. Growth doesn't happen by working harder. Growth happens by finding and exploiting leverage. Now, here's the minimum requirement. You need at least 30 paying clients. You need to know how to book at least 120 appointments, whether it's cold, inbound, or outbound, and you need at least 3 to 6 months of operational history to ensure reliable data. If you haven't met these requirements, focus on building your base first, and without a foundation, the asymmetries you identify will be incomplete or misleading. So, understanding the 3 terrains of asymmetry. There is client stability, which your KPI is to protect your cash and fulfillment quality, and your metric is the number of refunds, dispute, nightmare clients. This is the most important thing. Next is client acquisition, which is generating consistent qualified leads and appointments. Your metrics are lead generation, appointments, show-up rates, and sales conversions. And then lastly, it's cash efficiency. So KPI here is to maximize profitability and cash flow, and your metrics here are the profit margins, sales velocity, and cash collected. Here is your simple step 2, which is to complete your audit. Your asymmetry audit for your business. So these are the metrics and the conditions that I recommend, your KPIs, your metrics, and then whether or not it's a priority score right now. So what are the bottlenecks here? So if this was like a 6%, this is a 5 out of 5 level of priority, right? So refund rate must be below 5%. Your dispute rate, at least less than 2.5%. Nightmare rate, less than 10%. Payment collections, around 70% of cash collected, ideally. Offer validity, you must have booked at least 120 appointments. Profit margin is about 50%. Again, it depends on the business that you're running. R1 is operating between, we had it at like 70 to 50%. Pretty fun. Average order value, which is how much cash collected on day 1. Show up rate, which is do the majority show up. This has been an issue for quite some time for us, at least. Appointment to close rate, which has to be above 20%. Personal closing rate, so how good is your closing rate compared to your sales rep closing rate? I expect it to be at least 1 in 3. For yourself. If you can't close 1 in 3, how are you going to expect someone else to close it? Sales cycle, 14 days. Sales velocity has to be compounding, not going down. Churn rate, less than 15%. This should be at least 10%, in my opinion. And then your lifetime value, which is at least 3x your cost per acquisition, which is great. Cost per acquisition as low as possible. And then your lifetime value to CAC ratio is a 3-to-1 ratio over here. So step 3, how to fill it in. You need to measure, you need to identify your gaps, and you need to prioritize. 5, 3, 1. 5 is a critical bottleneck, 3 significant problem, and 1 is a minor efficiency. Step 4, prioritize with ruthless focus. Fix only priority 5 asymmetries first. Fix fully before moving to lower priorities, and you are forbidden from fixing or trying to fix everything at once. That doesn't work. You don't have time. Solve the smallest number of biggest problems, and then solve, and the system will move itself. This is your compound interest engine. And last but not least, how you know you found a true asymmetry. You notice that when you do tiny inputs, massive outputs occur. You have a domino effect, right? One fix triggers improvements across multiple KPIs, and then obviously, then it becomes obvious in hindsight, right? When you look back, you wonder why you hadn't fixed it sooner. Here are some real life examples of business asymmetries. Add a same day sign up bonus, which is, you do that. It takes 5 minutes, you get a 20% increase in upfront cash. Tweak your call to action, you double your show up rate. You improve objection handling. 2 hours of team training, you get a higher sales conversion rate. You add a 3-minute pre-call video, which improves show-up rate. You get faster sales cycles because they're more educated. You introduce an onboarding call, dramatically reduce friction and reduction in refunds and churn because they set the right expectation when they jump on board with you. Key tools to track your asymmetries: refund rates and dispute. Use Stripe. Nightmare clients. manually tally in GoHighLevel, and you can measure this with the number of hair, or the amount of hair that falls out every month. That was a joke. Payment collection rate. So you Stripe, export it into a spreadsheet and measure that on a monthly basis. Appointments booked, GoHighLevel. Show up rates, GoHighLevel, and a sales sheet. Sales conversion rate, sales sheet. You can use it manually tracking, or you can use ClickUp. Client churn rates, fulfillment spreadsheets, and then sales velocity, weekly revenue reports. Final word, growth isn't about doing more. It's about finding the few right moves and doing them better. Your next stage of scale is already hidden inside your current business, and it's hidden inside your asymmetries. Hunt them down, fix them, and watch everything change. That's your asymmetry audit. Please do that. You'll make a lot of money. Next, how small tweaks spiral into system failure. Now, this is the anti-asymmetry, right? Take cold emails, for example, right? Let's say your current cadence consistently books calls at a 3% conversion rate, and you decide to double your email volume to scale output. What happens? Delivery drops due to sudden spikes. Spam filters activates. Open rates collapse. Low quality leads flood through your pipeline, and sales morale craters. Honestly, yeah, this is huge. You imagine speaking. This is what some of our sales rep experience quite recently, actually. They speak to unqualified, uninterested, broke prospects. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm wasting my time. They're wasting their time. This is not a worthwhile conversation. A seemingly minor tweak triggers a cascading system failure. Why? Because you optimize for volume instead of validating that your North Star metric could hold under pressure. This is what happens when you ignore the non-linear nature of system behavior. The golden rule of system stability. If your North Star metric is within KPI, the system is working regardless of what the supporting metrics say. If your cold open rate is 5%, but you're booking qualified calls, leave it. If your YouTube channel is 200 subscribers, but delivers 5 ideal clients per week, don't freaking touch it. Don't complain. Be happy. If your landing page converts at 15%, but leads close at your target cost per acquisition, you're winning. Chasing prettier numbers like higher open rates, more followers, or a sleeker funnel can destroy what's already working. You end up fixing the paint job while crashing the engine. Sorry, that really pissed me off because don't f it when it's working. Just leave it alone. The system smart way to intervene. Right? Understanding nonlinear systems behavior forces a mindset shift from quick optimization to deliberate engineering. Diagnose before intervening. Isolate your variables. Monitor second order effects. Respect the latency of behavior and anchor to the North Star. As long as the NSM holds steady, resist the urge to over-optimize everything. Next, statistical regression. So we talked about North Star metrics. We talked about asymmetry. Now we're going to talk about statistical regression. In the world of client acquisition, not all outcomes are explanations. Some are just variations in disguise. One of the most common and costly mistakes system builders make is reacting emotionally to short-term performance. A funnel suddenly underperforms, a cold outreach campaign hits a lucky streak, or a rep closes 5 in a row. We rush to optimize the magic or fix the failure. But in most cases, it's just brilliance or breakdown. It's statistical regression at work. What is statistical regression? Well, statistical regression is the mean. It's the statistical regression or regression to the mean is the principle that extreme outcomes are often followed by more average ones. Over time, performance trends towards the system's baseline. Acquisition systems are inherently probabilistic. They operate within ranges and likelihoods, not guarantees. An appointment setter who books on average 5 appointments a day isn't going to book exactly 5 appointments every day. Sometimes they get 0. Sometimes they get 10. But over the long run, the average holds out. That is why it's dangerous to make structural decisions based on outliers. 1 bad week does not equate to a broken funnel, and 3 good days does not mean we've cracked it. The risk of overreacting to variations. When you mistake noise for trend, you introduce reactive instability. A campaign underperforming, a sales script performs exceptionally well, or a video underperforms on YouTube. These are knee-jerk interventions which disrupt what could have been a functional system simply moving through its natural statistical rhythm. Treat outcomes like a scientist, not a freaking gambler. Gamblers react to hot streaks and cold hands. Scientists wait for data to settle. If you want to engineer acquisition systems that scale, resist the freaking urge to optimize based on statistical blips. Let the system breathe. Trust the numbers over time. Only intervene when patterns persist and persist beyond the margin of randomness. Because the best builders don't just react to outcomes. They understand why outcomes happen. Validity before velocity. In the race to scale, many teams confuse volume with truth because they see a spike in traffic, a burst of leads, or a dip in open rates and immediately begin interpreting trends and making decisions. But velocity without validity is just motion without means. If your data is invalid, the speed of interpretation is irrelevant, right? You're accelerating in the wrong direction. This mental model forces a discipline that many seek and many skip. First, Verify that the data you're reacting to is real. Next, make sure it's reliable. Next, make sure it's relevant. Only then can you safely scale decisions based on it. I got in so much trouble back in the day during my science days because my data wasn't valid. Speaking of, what is validity? Well, in system design and diagnostics, validity refers to the accuracy and integrity of the data that you're using to evaluate performance. It answers the questions. Is this data actually telling me what I think it's telling me? And if your tracking is broken, your sample size is inefficient, or your inputs are skewed, then any conclusions drawn are fiction, no matter how sophisticated your analysis may seem. The risk of acting on valid data. Let's look at what happens when you move too fast. Broken attribution. You're running Facebook ads and notice a sudden dip in conversions. You pause the campaign and relocate the budget, only to discover later that your pixel broke midweek, or that your attribution tool that you're using was inaccurate and there was a glitch. The dip was in tracking, not performance, and you misread a healthy campaign and lost momentum based on fake data. Number 2, incomplete sample size. You launch a new landing page after 48 hours, conversions are lower than your control, and you revert immediately. But your test only ran for 28 with 28 visitors. It's like hardly statistically significant, right? You potentially killed a better page because you react before the data matured. And then lastly, the unqualified volume. Your team doubles email output to accelerate the pipeline. Bookings go up, but so does churn, refund results, refund requests, and lead complaints. The growth you saw wasn't real. It was invalid volume and not qualified demand, right? So the outcome, you scaled garbage data and created operational chaos. How to validate before you act. A few systems disciplines ensure you not misled by false data, right? You want to check tracking, you want to confirm sample size, you want to audit the low data source biases, and then you want to wait for stability. That's it. Go through this. Track it. Are your pixels, are your UTM parameters set up? Are your analytics working? Is your CRM in field, right? Remember this, garbage in, garbage out. Make sure your garbage that's coming in is crystal clean. Confirm sample size, right? Avoid interpreting results from too small samples. If you're using tools like A/B testing calculators or confidence interval estimators, statistical noise often looks like a signal when volume is low. Cool. The mental model in practice. Validity before velocity is not a call to move slowly, but it's a call to be deliberate. It encourages decision, which is to decision quality over decision speed, which is the accuracy over reactivity, system clarity over statistical guesswork. And because in acquisition systems, a fast decision built on invalid data is worse than no decision at all, move fast only after you verified the ground beneath your feet is real. Speed is only useful when you're headed in the right direction, and velocity is seductive. It feels like progress, but unless your data is valid, your progress may be a system mirage. Let this be your internal checkpoint before interpreting results. So is this tracking clean? Is the sample size large enough? And is the outcome real or just a statistical glitch? If the answer to all the above is yes, then accelerate. If not, pause, audit, and then proceed. Boom. North Star metrics, asymmetry, statistical regression, validity before velocity. Now we're going to discuss something called the input scaling and structural scaling. In client acquisition, the word scale gets thrown around a lot, often without understanding what kind of scale is actually being applied, right? There's 2 types of scale. There's input scaling and structural scaling, right? So input scaling is doing more of what you're already doing, like more emails, ads, posts, which builds fast momentum. But if you don't have good systems, as in structural systems to handle that input, you get something called fragility, right? While structural scaling is building out automations, getting SOPs in place, getting ops to build out things for you to increase the system's capacity, not just volume. Structural scaling, it prepares it to handle that pressure. Momentum without structure leads to breakdowns, and structure without momentum leads to stagnation. You need both. Both are necessary, but confusing them or leaning entirely on one while ignoring the other is a fast track to instability. Input scalability, more of the same, right? So more cold emails, ads, content, calls, right? It's about multiplying the inputs that already work to drive more outputs. Input scaling creates momentum, and it's often the right move when your system is working at a small scale and you want more results now. But input scaling has a ceiling because more volume adds more weight to your system, and unless the system is built to carry that weight, it breaks. Structural scaling, designing for load. Structural scaling is different because it doesn't increase volume, it increases capacity, right? I remember when I was starting out and I said, a guru, told me, hey, why are you building a system for a $10,000 per month business? It should be for a $100,000 per month business. So I thought like that, okay, cool. I'm going to build it in a way where I can withstand $100,000 per month plus. And it invariably helped me achieve my 10K per month goals way faster. Structural scaling, designed for load. Structural scaling is different. It doesn't increase volume, it increases capacity, right? Structural scaling is about improving the system's architecture so it handles more inputs without bottlenecks, errors, or team burnout. It looks like this. Automating lead segmentation, creating workflows, building dashboards, creating modular messaging templates for personalization, implementing queue-based email systems that preserve deliverability even under volume spikes. Why most team overscale inputs? It's easy to scale inputs. Anyone can really do more. Like you can just do more, always. But without corresponding structural support that added volume strains the system. Lead quality drops, respond time slows down, follow-up gets inconsistent, sales team burns out, feedback loop gets noisy and confusing, and data turns into unreliable. To scale responsibly, you need to balance both forces. Momentum without resilience is equate to burnout, whilst resilience without momentum equates to stagnation. Bottlenecking. Whew, right? We talked about scaling. Now what about bottlenecks? That stops us from scaling. Every acquisition system is limited by its tightest constraint and the point in the funnel where throughput slows down the most. This is called your bottleneck. Every acquisition, no matter how large or complex, is ultimately governed by its narrowest point, right? The selection through, you can see this visual, right? Like this through all these people, the volume. But then if there's gaps in that volume, not many people can get through to the entrance. This is your bottleneck. Optimizing any part of the system, no matter how brilliant, will not significantly raise total output unless the bottleneck itself is resolved. It's not about doing more work everywhere. It's about doing smarter work exactly where it counts. Think of your acquisition system like a pipeline. The narrowest section dictates the total flow. Until that point expands, the rest is relevant. Or put it another way, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link, and your revenue system is only as fast as its tightest choke point. Measuring throughput, which is conversion rates and cost metrics. To understand how efficiently prospects move through your systems, we track conversion rates, the percentage of people progressing from one stage to the next. An example, 100 sales calls equals to 10 closes, which is your sales conversion rate. We can assess conversion efficiency by cost, measuring how much financial energy it takes to move someone forward. $10,000 in ad spend gets 100 booked calls, which is a cost per book call of $100. However, not every micrometric is worth measuring, and some areas are difficult or impossible to track accurately. Whether clients follow implementation advice and chasing every statistic risks clouding strategic clarity. Instead, we concentrate on macro keystone metrics, the few vital signs that truly govern growth. So what are macro keystone metrics? Well, macro keystone metrics are the key equivalents of human vital signs, right? Your pulse, right? For instance, what's your pulse? What's your pulse of your business, right? And these metrics, right, they summarize efficiency of major conversion systems across the pipeline, like average, appointment booking rate, ABR, return on investment, or profit, right? Measures the overall financial health of the business. Diagnostic issues, right? So know your KPIs. Review macrometrics, and work downstream through secondary, tertiary, and quaternary metrics until the precise failure point is found. Fixing surface metrics without addressing broken keystone metrics is like repainting a cracked foundation. As an example, in paid ads, right, you get 500 new leads, 350 of them respond to initial outputs, 150 of them pick up a call, 60 of them book an appointment, 40 of them show, 10 of them convert. At first glance, everything appears active. Lead flows in, conversion happens, sales occur. But when you map the throughput, you notice sharp drop-offs. Engagement to booking. Why is there such a drop in engagement and then booking? What's going on? From booking to show. Why we've got 60, that's actually pretty good, but why can't all of them show? And then finally from show to close, why can't we close more? These are true bottlenecks and the place where the system hemorrhages opportunities. Diagnosing across the pipeline, pipe by pipe validation. When mapping bottlenecks, it's not enough to spot the first weak conversion rates and assume it's the issue. You must validate each system systematically. This is what it looks like. Pipeline G, which is the keystone metric, is out of KPI. It signals a deeper problem, but it's not the final diagnosis. Oh no, beep, 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 beep. This is the issue. But number F is within KPI, but throughput feels slightly weaker. Remember, a pipe can appear healthy numerically, but be bottlenecked downstream. Validate volume first. Pipeline E, it's out of KPI. It's a possible contributor to throughput issues, but again, validate volume and check downstream before acting. Pipeline D is out of KPI, which is a strong candidate for the root bottleneck. If you fix pipeline D without checking pipeline E, flow might still be blocked, right? And then finally, we look at C, B, and A, which is all within KPI with healthy flow. Inputs into these stages are sufficient, meaning that the true bottleneck is either D or E. See? This is what happens. You don't just say, G is the problem, let's fix G. No, G is a consequence of prior pipes and stages in your actual funnel. Diagnosing bottlenecks. Start at the end and then work backwards. When attempting to fix throughputs, the smartest method is to reverse diagnose. Start at the point closest to cash, right? So closing rate, and then work backwards through each stage to find where value truly leaks. This is critical because just because the value isn't flowing at one stage doesn't mean that the stage is the root bottleneck. For instance, we have a partner that we're working with, and their goal is to get to $1 million per month. Some of their sales reps aren't closing at the percentages that they want to close at. And, founder is saying that this is an issue with the closer. Closer is saying that this is an issue with the quality of leads. So it's sort of like figuring out where the actual bottleneck is. And we're actually having discussions right now. I believe, for me, the bottleneck isn't, right? It isn't the closer's issue. It's the types of leads that we're bringing in, that we're getting them to call, getting them to show interest, getting them to show up on a call, pre-qualifying them through a triager, and then they get on a closer's call and they realize, oh, this person doesn't actually have any money. It's not a business owner. They don't even know what GoHighLevel is. How just doesn't make sense. So the problem isn't this. It probably is this. It probably is the marketing itself and the marketing messages that we're using to attract our people. So a blocked pipe further downstream can starve upstream stages of volume, making healthy pipes appear broken or inconclusive. KPI targets are your guide. If a metric is out of KPI and sufficient volume has passed through it, it becomes a primary suspect. But without enough volume, you must keep tracing backwards until the real source is found, visualizing the hidden bottlenecks. So for instance, if show up rate says 55%, right? Which is here, right? Show up rate says 55%, which is sure within KPI, yet revenue is stagnant. If we relied only on the service data, we might incorrectly assume the issue is elsewhere. However, a closer inspection reveals that the true blockage lies upstream at the funnel opt-in stage. Traffic enters, opt-ins are weak, poor quality prospects bleed into booking appointments, which eventually chokes show-up quality and show-up rates. The symptom appears at the call confirmation stage, but the cause was earlier in the chain. This is exactly what I was mentioning earlier, right? So even if it was like 75%, you think that's good, but you're not making any money. So if people are showing up, we got them to show up to the call with the closer. Is it the closer's fault for not closing at the rate in which we expect, or is it the quality of prospects that we're allowing to get onto the closer's calendar, diagnosing whether or not they're actually a good fit, and then going from there. So this is what it looks like. Imagine this. So this is the bottleneck mapping process step by step. When diagnosing and facing throughput issues, use this order. Map the entire funnel. Qualify each drop-off. Identify the steepest declines, prioritize your optimization effort, and then reassess after each fix. A system might look fine at surface level. A 30% call to close rate seems healthy, right? But here's another issue. What if the 70% who didn't buy were your dream clients? What if the 30% that did close actually ended up churning and refunding, right? That's happened before. What is the objection that could have been handled with minor messaging tweaks? And the lost revenue was 6 figures per month. Bottleneck mapping isn't just about the numbers, it's about what the numbers mean. You don't scale by perfecting what already works, you scale by reinforcing the weak points that secretly cap your potential. Here's some questions I recommend you ask when you are measuring or taking a look at your KPIs and in your system. How do we build systems that reliably achieve KPI, right? Simple answer, you follow the proven acquisition architecture without deviation. Complex answer, you treat each system variable as stimuli, which is apply controlled experiments using the scientific methods and iterate towards the highest yield. Question 2, how do we maintain consistency once we hit KPI? Well, you protect working systems that don't fix what is broken, don't touch it. And then finally, if we fall out of KPI, how do we repair the performance? Well, systems collapse because the environment changes and platforms evolve, buyer behavior shift, or market tolerance fluctuates. Once deviation is detected, confirm sufficient data, apply the 4-level diagnosis process, which is macro, secondary, tertiary, and then the stimuli conversion point optimization, and then systems must adapt or be replaced. Boom. Last but not least, feedback loops. So what are the feedback loops? Every client acquisition system is a conversion, not just with your audience, but with it itself. Feedback loops are what happens when a system outputs become its next input. They're the invisible hand that either reinforces growth or accelerates decline. Left unmanaged, they spiral. You spiral hard, right, and fast. There are 2 types. Positive feedback loops, right, which amplify output. They build momentum, and a good result creates better conditions for another good result, which reinforces the loop. Negative feedback, which is, they shrink performance, they create downward spirals. One missed target leads to hesitation, which leads to weaker execution, which leads to more missed targets. What makes feedback loops powerful and dangerous is that they compound. They don't just react, they magnify. Example of this is, A cold email gets replies, you gain confidence, your tone improves, you get more replies. A YouTube video performs well, gets pushed harder by the algorithm, more views, more subs, the next video launches with a higher baseline reach. Negative feedback loops. Your ad fatigue sets in, quarter CTR drops, CAC spikes, you throw a budget, and the algorithm deprioritizes your performance. A sales rep hits a rough patch, loses confidence, rushes calls, closes drop rates, and slumps deepens. The data of misinterpreting feedback. Not all feedback is valid, by the way. One angry comment does not mean the market insight, and one slow day does not mean you're broken, your funnel is broken, your sales reps suck. False feedback loops are created when emotion replaces data. If one prospect says not interested, that's not proof that your copy is bad. If one video flops, that's not proof that the algorithm hates you. And if the moment you let isolated inputs dictate systematic change, you enter a negative feedback loop by choice. This is how founders kill good systems, by reacting to symptoms instead of diagnosing patterns. Feedback loops require active engineering. So try and amplify positive loops, dampen negative loops, and filter out the noise. You do this by embedding early stage diagnostics, tracking pattern-based trends, not emotional blips, and you create rule sets to when to iterate, pause, or scale. Feedback as a design principle. The best acquisition systems don't just listen to results, they design for feedback. They build in mechanisms to loop outcomes back to content messaging and strategy. Avoid hasty overhauls by requiring evidence, not anecdotes, and they reward behaviors that align with desired outcomes. Because when feedback is clear, clean, and correctly interpreted, you no longer have to guess what's broken or what's not working. So adaptive system which mimic nature. What does this mean? The most enduring systems are not the most efficient. They are the most adaptable. What does that mean? Just like nature, survival acquisition systems is less about perfect performance and more about resilience under change. So when a campaign starts working, its clock begins ticking. That high-performing ad format, that clever subject line, that webinar, that fills calendars, it all works until it doesn't. Market shifts, audience expectations evolve, what was once novel becomes noise. Your job isn't to find one thing that works forever, it's to evolve faster than entropy erodes. Latency awareness. Cause and effect in acquisition systems are rarely instant. When you publish a lead magnet today and call book 2 weeks from now, and a lead books 2 weeks from now, it's easy to figure what cause that cause was upstream. Many operators misinterpret this delay as randomness or failure. They change messaging, rebuild funnels, or shut down campaigns before the system has time to even respond. Understanding latency is all about knowing your timing and your windows, whether you're nurturing leads, retargeting ads, or running multi-step email flows, which results come downstream. The gap between action and output can span days or weeks. That means your strategy must include both patience and reinforcement. Entropy and decay. Every system degrades over time. Funnel fatigues, domains burn out, offers lose their sharpness, and team members drift from the playbook. None of this is unusual. It's natural. It's a natural state of all systems, increasing disorder unless maintained. Too many founders confuse entropy with failure. They do. They panic when results decline, thinking the system is broken, but really, it's just wearing down. High-performing systems include renewal mechanisms by default, audits, refresh cycles, messaging updates, offer rewrites, performance reviews. They're scheduled, not reactive. You can eliminate entropy, but you cannot outrun it. And if you're disciplined, you can build a system that refreshes itself before fragility sets in. Subsystem synchronization. Wow, big one. No part of an acquisition system operates in isolation. Your cold email engine might be booking appointments at a great rate, but if your calendar link is clunky, your show rate tanks, if your sales rate lacks structure, and the close rate suffers, and if onboarding is unclear, refunds rise. A funnel is not a soloist, it's a symphony. Great performance doesn't come from over-optimization one touchpoint, it comes from horizontal integration across the system. This means looking at how each part talks to the next. Does the messaging on your ad reflect what's on the landing page? Does the sales script pick up the psychological threads of the email? And is your call follow-up cadence aligned with the natural flow? Strong systems move in harmony, not silos. Environmental constraints. Even the best designed systems can be wrecked by shifts in the environment. Your funnel might have worked perfectly in Q1, but then suddenly, boom, it sucks. Before you rewrite it all, check the context. Did CPMs double on your ad platform? Did your audience fatigue? Did the channel itself change its rules or its culture? Every system lives inside an ecosystem, and that ecosystem includes market behavior, attention trends, algorithm updates, policy shifts, and even buyer psychology. If you know the environment, you chase phantom problems. If you study the environment, you can preemptively pivot and adapt and survive while others scramble to rebuild. Feedback loop fidelity. Most systems don't lack data, they lack useful feedback. Weak systems wait for revenue to show up before evaluating performance, and by that time, They notice the drop in sales is too late, right? The leak has already happened weeks ago. Strong systems listens early. They track behavioral signals. Click, objection, booking, call to a CTA, abandonment rates, emotional tone in replies. The sooner the system can detect misalignment, the faster it can adjust. Feedback loops must be specific, fast, and tightly coupled to real behavior. If the data lags behind reality, you're optimizing in hindsight, and then the damage is already done. Last but not least, two more, sorry guys, the replication principle. So a true system is transferable. If it only works when the founder runs it, it's not a system, it's performance. You have a high-paying job. To scale this, you need every subsystem, messaging, outreach, sales, follow-up to be repeatable by someone else. This means building operational clarity, templates, maps, workflows, decision trees, SOPs. When a new team member can plug in, follow the protocol, and hit 80% of the original results, you have something scalable. Until then, you're bottlenecked by human uniqueness. Replication is not about removing creativity, it's about systematizing what works so you can grow without breaking, right? Can you give someone a set of SOPs and can they do it at 80% of what you want it to? Then lastly, the friction audit. Every system has hidden points of resistance. They aren't in your analytics. They're in your user's experience. That extra form field, that vague CTA, that one broken email link, tiny bits of friction that silently kill conversions, steal momentum, and create hesitation. Funnel optimization isn't just about metrics, it's about feel. Walk through your journey as a stranger. Would you pay attention to every click, every word, every decision? Is it smooth? Is it clear? Is it emotionally aligned with what the user needs? And the goal isn't perfection, it's momentum without resistance, because the fewer the blocks, the greater the flow. And last but not least, the leverage law. Again, what I mentioned to you guys earlier. You could tweak a headline and get a 3% lift, or you could change your qualification process and increase your sales efficiency by 50%. Some changes create ripples, other cause waves. Smart operators constantly ask, what small changes, if improved, would make everything else work better? It might be upstream, attracting more motivated leads. It might be structurally, which is improving handoffs between marketing and sales. It could be strategic, which is rewiring the offers to match buyer readiness. Don't waste energy on low leverage moves. Find the pressure point that unlock system-wide improvements and start there. So we have discussed an outrageous amount of things just now, right? Sorry, let me just finish this for you. So we discussed a whole load of things. We discussed the 7 mental models. Then we discussed the supporting mental models for the funnel forensics. And now, last but not least, let's assume that you've got everything dialed in. How do we scale? So I discussed earlier today, right, the metrics or what's required for scale. Now I'm going to discuss what it actually means. Because in business, scale simply means growth. In size, more clients, more revenue, more market share. But true scale is not just about doing more. It's about expanding efficiency and sustainability. In the context of an online info business, or if you go high level business as well, scaling means enlarging 3 core buckets: acquisition, value delivery, and then the infrastructure. The playbook for that would be to find a value delivery system that works at a small scale, find an acquisition system, conversion system that works at a small scale as well, dramatically increase the volume, and then expand infrastructure. Without proof of concept at a micro level, scaling simply scales problems. You cannot scale arbitrarily. Scale is conditional. At a minimum, you need these 6 conditions. You need a product which gets results, fast, consistent client wins. You need an offer that resonates with market psychology. You need appointments, predictable appointment booking system. You need reliable attendees, and you need a script that actually converts. And then you need sustainable margins after costs. Each must be proven across 30 to 100 clients over a 3 to 6 month window. Otherwise, you are building on. Otherwise, it doesn't matter, guys. Otherwise, you're building on sand. Assuming you have this, let me add this in. Assuming you have all these things in place. So in order to find the conditions required to scale, you need to understand these 3 key disciplines. Firstly, being focus. Now, concentrate all, which is the definition of concentrating all your finite time and energy into solving one problem for one person with one product. Time and energy are the only 2 currencies you control. Focus, which is F, is the multiplier that determines what you get from them. Success is equivalent to energy plus time multiplied by focus. Tattoo this, because focus isn't just important, it's everything. Without focus, your efforts are diluted across multiple directions, ensuring mediocrity everywhere. Think about it. If person A, B, and C are all given a book to read in an hour, why do these results differ so much? A read it 40 pages, B read 10, C read 80. Well, they all had the same amount of time and energy. A is 4 times more successful than B, while C is 8 times more successful than B and 2 times more successful than person B. It's all because of focus, and this is true in business, right? It doesn't even matter if person A or B had triple the time that person C had, right? You can see they're performing significantly better, even though they have, 2 years left, but they had like a 9 focus on it. How much are they all making? Not a lot. Okay, cool. Then you'll make small amounts of progress in lots of different directions and be everywhere, but average everywhere. But if you put your energy and time into one thing, one business, one hobby, one sport, then you'll make a huge amount of progress in one direction and be great somewhere. Would you rather be average everywhere or great somewhere? I know my answer. This rule exists everywhere. Products, reading, relationship studies, niche, business models, mentors, and goals. I did this recently in September of 2024. I proposed to my girlfriend of 5 years. I just said, cool. I was working a job. I had a agency at the time. I also had multiple partners, in the sense of business partners, not partners. And it was just, there was a load of things that I could have done, but I knew that if I just set my goals and my eyes on one thing and committed to it, I would be great at something. And to prove to myself, I said, cool, I'm gonna marry my girl, who's now my co-founder, who is my business partner and my life partner. And I've done more in the last year than I have in the last however many years I've been alive, like 24 years that I've been in this place, because I've just sat here and worked on one problem, helping one set of people get results. It's that simple. Macro and micro focus. Macro or micro in the middle, in the minute or the hour you focus on the video without any distractions right now. Macro is in the year or the decade. You're still focused on this business without any distractions. You should have micro focus down. If you can't sit and work undistracted for hours on end, you have no hope of building an 8-figure machine. No hope. Macro focus is about avoiding shiny objects, saying no to everything that isn't contributing towards the goal, sticking to your niche, solving one problem with one product for one person. And at this point, you're like, oh, well, great, Ryan, thanks for that. But what should I focus on? This is an extremely powerful exercise I suggest you do. 100 units of time is an exercise that will make you more focused and value your time way more. When you're doing the exercise, just live a normal week. Don't make extra effort just because you're tracking your time. Set an alarm for every 30 minutes. Record exactly what you're doing. Categorize into waste or valuable, and then calculate your total waste or value. I ask this to people, guys who are selling SaaS for a low ticket. I'm just like, okay, cool. If you are doing your normal work, your normal 9 to 5, right? How much is your hourly rate? Oh, somewhere between like $100 to $500. And I'm like, okay, cool. So why are you selling your SaaS for $97 a month when it'll probably take at least 5 to 10 hours to get them truly set up and utilizing the software? Like, why are you charging so low? Like, people pay you hundreds of dollars per hour, but you're not willing to charge more because now it's your thing and you don't have the confidence in it because you've not utilized it. This is for GoHighLevel beginners, but just time is the most valuable thing in your life. I've come to realize that. Yeah. The second key fundamental mental model that you need to implement in order to scale is to understand strain. Scaling a business is not a neutral process. It doesn't just simply make your success bigger. It also amplifies every hidden weakness embedded into your system. When you try to scale, when you push more volume, more clients, more complexity through your operations, you are applying strain to every part of the business. And under strain, cracks that were once hairline fractures widen into catastrophe, whatever, you get it, failure. Low pressure, medium pressure, high pressure equates to cracks. Imagine your business as a submarine. When you're operating at a surface level, handling 5, 10, 30 clients, any small cracks in your fulfillment, communication, financial, or lead systems might seem manageable. You patch things up with a little extra hustle, a late night email, or a quick favor. At the surface level, pressure is low, and then cracks don't seem to appear much of a threat. But scale is like diving deep into the ocean. The deeper you go, the greater the pressure exerted on the submarine hull. Suddenly, that tiny crack becomes a fatal flaw, and the deeper you scale, the more relentless the pressure becomes until the weakest part of your system breaks. Scaling multiplies pressure exponentially, not linearly. At 30 clients, poor onboarding creates minor headaches. At 150 clients, poor onboarding can destroy your reputation, spike refund rates, and gut your revenue. At 50K per month, messy cash flow, slows growth slightly. At $500,000 a month, messy cash flow can implode your business entirely if ad spend or salaries can't be met on time. What's manageable when small becomes fatal when multiplied. Scale doesn't hide your problems, it amplifies it, guys. It amplifies the shit out of it, right? Many founders mistakenly believe that scaling will fix their issues, that they'll be able to hire someone later to sort the ops out, or that better CRM softwares will magically solve their churn, or more leads will somehow make up for poor close rates. But scale doesn't sweep problems away, it puts them under a microscope. If you have an unresolved bottleneck, bad client experience, pricing errors, leaky funnels, leaky fulfillment systems, poor financial controls, scale will expose every one of them brutally and publicly. That's why it's said that scale reveals incompetence faster than success rewards competence. Strain works mechanically. Strain, by definition is pressure over surface area. In business, that surface area is your systems, your SOPs, your team's bandwidth, and your client journey design, your cash reserve buffer. When strain rises, weak SOPs snap. Undertrained staff can't keep up with inbound volume. Broken onboarding flows collapse, and flimsy cash reserves get drained, leading to survival decisions instead of strategic ones. Systems that are duct taped together at low volume will explode under high volume, right? And thus, the readiness of your business to scale is defined by how much strain your system can absorb without breaking. Metrics are how you spot strain before it destroys you. Strain doesn't always announce itself loudly at first. It shows up subtly. It shows up by rising refund rates, slow respond rates, clients slipping through cracks, team members overwhelmed by making basic errors, or margins thinning even at revenues rising. If you track your critical metrics rigorously and benchmark them against your KPIs consistently, you can catch strain before it becomes a full system failure. If you don't, you're effectively sailing blind into a hurricane. Metrics don't just show you performance, they show your structural integrity under pressure. The core rule of strain: if you don't fix your bottleneck at 30 clients, they will break you at 100. If you don't fix cash flow at $50K a month, it will ruin you at $500,000 a month. If you don't build systems for strain now, strain will destroy what you've built later. Scaling is not reward for ambition. Scaling is a test of preparation. You either pass or you don't scale sustainably at all. This is a quote from my father, my dear old father. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. This is when I failed an exam, and he made me put that all over my wall. Remember this. Lastly, economics. Obviously, you know, in order to scale, right, running a business is like captaining a ship through unpredictable seas. You don't just drift and hope for the best. You must actively steer, monitor your fuel, and read your instructions if you want to survive the storm and reach new horizons. Controls. First thing, you need controls. These are the levers that you pull to change the speed, adjust the course, and navigate rough waters. In GHRU, our controls include things like launching YouTube ads, campaigns, scaling organic traffic, content, tightening sales operations, deploying software, systems like GoHighLevel. Each control gives the ability to fine-tune different parts of your client acquisition system. Reserves. You gotta have reserves, right? Gotta have reserves. You need reserves. No ship dares venture far without enough supplies. In business, your supplies are your cash reserves, fuel that keeps you moving even when the wind dies down. Lastly, dashboard, which is, you need, every best sailor needs the chart and the instruments to know their position, speed, and heading, and where they're heading to. In business, your dashboard shows you vital metrics: how many leads you're attracting, how many bookings you're getting, how are you converting them, what your churn look like, how much cash is in your bank. A founder without a dashboard, it's like a captain navigating through thick fog with no compass. You're just guessing, and eventually you'll hit rock bottom. In GHRU, we operate with a real-time dashboard. Every key metric is available instantly, so decisions are made with eyes wide open. Most businesses drift because they are built for calm waters, not deep voyages. At GHRU, we don't build dinghies. We build ships fit to cross oceans. Conclusion: build systems that think, move, and evolve. Funnel forensics is a philosophical approach of engineered growth, right? It asks you to see systems not as static funnels, but as living structures that move, mutate, and mature. With the right mental models, you gain true clarity to detect what truly is happening, the judgment to decide what matters most, and the discipline to build infrastructures that adapt under pressure. Because the best adaptation and the best acquisition systems don't just convert, they adapt faster than they decay. And that's how you scale, survive, and stay sharp in any environment. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much. I have the worksheets down in the description below. Utilize them, go through them, recap this, rewatch this training video over and over and over again. If you don't begin to if you find things are slipping and you need a reminder, rewatch this. Thank you for watching Funnel Forensics.